We're live on the Virtual Grip Network from the great state of Georgia at the Atlanta Motor Speedway, where we're about to witness some bumper-to-bumper racing action from some of the top iRacers on the iRacing platform in the OBRL YesterYear Racing Cup Series. YesterYear, where past meets present. Last week, the Fish left his mark on the beaches of Daytona by stamping his passport to the YesterYear Cup Series playoffs. Now that everyone is back in the groove, who will step up and claim victory this week? I'm Zach Chapman, a.k.a. Shaggy, along with my partner in crime, John Hine, lucky enough to have the heartbeat of VGN bringing us all these sights and sounds, the one and only Ryan Seneker. Since NASCAR's debut here in 1960, so much of this racetrack has changed. But I'd have to say, in my mind, the biggest change at this racetrack occurred as recently as 2021 when the track was repaved and its banking was increased to 24 degrees. We've seen lap times shatter those of the past by more than a second. With a full 43-car field, the faster speeds, more time on the throttle, what do you think we can expect at the Atlanta Motor Speedway tonight, John?
Well, this is definitely a peach of a track right here in Georgia. The Atlanta Motor Speedway is over 1.5 miles, just a very slight tick over 1.5 miles. But the thing about it, you mentioned the banking. All of a sudden, this becomes plate racing. You're going to see packs. You're going to see guys having to lift, to stay off guys in front of them. You're going to see pushes. You're going to see drafting. You're going to see all kinds of, should we say, chess moves being played out there on the racetrack here tonight. Look for some big checkups, because the runs that you're going to get, guys are going to have to check up, maybe have nowhere to go with the runs. A lot of action. Watch for most of the action to coming out of turns 2 and turn 4. What to do with those runs, where to go with those runs. I can't wait to see how all this shakes out tonight.
Yeah, and speaking of chess moves, you had to make your moves early, John. Once again, we have a full field, and looking at the Discord, there are a lot of drivers who missed out on a chance to race tonight. It's just showing the popularity and the skill of these drivers. I mean, I'm in here, I want to say 5 minutes into the session, and this thing is already full. I mean, these drivers are excited, and they're ready to go.
Well, we have to tip our hat to the league here. I mean, these guys put together a group of guys that it's fun to race around, and that's where you get that excitement from. Anytime you can join a league, Zach, you know this, you get on the track, and when you can compete and trust, 90% of the drivers around you, man, that becomes a lot of fun. And these guys can do that. But, the couple things we should point out here, there is only a 9 incident level here. In this track, the close quarters, the high speed, these guys are going to have to really calculate the risk and reward of those chess moves we talked about. Because if you get in trouble, once or twice, you're done. Your race is over.
No, and, there's something, I know we're talking restrictor plate racing, but with these speeds, cars will beat up those right rear tires coming out of the corners here. And we've got 4 sets tonight, 3 in the pits, 1 on the car at the start. And you got to think green flag pit stops, John. I know it's going to take some time, but, man, I would not want to be that guy to stick it out there on tires. I would try to use every set they give me here tonight.
Yeah, and you talked about green flag pit stops. That you used to be here not too long ago. You would pit coming out of turn 4. Well, now pit entrance is all the way back on the backstretch. So guys are going to have to. We saw this last week. Guys are going to have to really manage getting on and off pit road, as quickly as possible. You can make up a lot of ground. We saw that last week at Daytona. This week it's going to be a lot of the same. You can lose several spots if you speed. Once you get to the cone to pit road, you can get yourself in trouble coming out of your pit and before you leave pit road speeding. But the big thing is on both ends here, you've got to drive through the flat on the apron on both sides and push it to the limit without spinning, and that's where the time really is going to be made up. So that will be fun to watch too.
Yeah, and we saw a lot of drivers practicing that and making sure they'd be able to absolutely nail it. But with that, John, I think qualifying has come to a close, and we should be seeing a starting grid here on our screen appear like magic any moment. We'll take a look at that here. Yeah, starting on the pole, quick time with a 31.356. Dave Matson on the outside, Daniel Hill. Row number 2 to the inside, Kevin Strandberg. On the outside, Josh Robinson. Row 3 to the inside, Lonnie Corey. On the outside, the Fish, Mark Fish. Row number 4 to the inside, Tom Ogle. On the outside, Jerry Isaacs.
Starting ninth is going to be the number 15 of Daryl Weiniger. Next to him will be Brian Lindsay. Starting in row number 6, it's going to be Lucky Larry Corey. Next to him will be Sean Foltz. Dakota Pischke and Chris Bates will occupy row 7. Row 8 will have Kevin Masur and Dwayne Legacy MacArthur.
Row 9 to the inside, Don Easterlin. On the outside, Bill Martin. Row number 10 on the inside, Patrick Martindale. On the outside, Jonathan Green. Row 12 to the inside, Fred Wolford III. To the outside, Robert Warisco. Row number 12. Oh, yeah. Row number 12 on the inside, Roger Hurley. On the outside, Michael Dow.
Andy Thomas and Alan Wanamaker are going to start 27-28. Mark Schrader and Eric McCluskey are going to start 28th and 29th. Brian Lynch and Lee Wurtzel will start 31st, 32nd, 33rd. Oh, excuse me. Go ahead, Zach. Bring her home.
Dustin Martinson on the inside of row 17. On the outside, Courtney Nelson. The Double Deuce Bruce Pearson lines up on the inside of row 18. To the outside, the Double 8 of Greg Hammond. Row number, let's do some math here, 19 to the inside, Andrew Kotska. On the outside, Lord Moore. Row 20 to the inside, Tommy Embassy. On the outside, John Hastings. And your final 3 inside of row 21, the 10 of Victor Lane. On the outside, Torrance Childs. And rounding out the field, Blackjack, Luke Lane.
Well, I'm glad I wasn't on that starting grid. My VR kind of blacked out there for a second. So, yeah, I'm lucky I'm not out there right now.
Yeah, that, man, the wonders, I just got done talking about that with some dirt guys. The wonders of technology to let us race from all over the world together and put on these amazing broadcasts. But boy, oh boy, sometimes they can let you down so quick, John.
Oh, yeah, we're at the mercy of technology, internet connections, VR stuff. But you know what? It allows us to have fun 99% of the time. I'll take that batting average any day.
100% of the time, I agree. And the Navy machine on the inside of row 1, Dave Mattson in the 09. We saw him leading the way a little bit at Daytona, but trouble fell his way. Wasn't able to finish up there in that top 5, but love to see that Navy ride running towards the front as we get ready to watch the pace car pull off. Yeah, okay, tricked me. Thought maybe we'd stick around one more time, but they're ready to play. The green flag is high. It's ready to fly. 145 laps at Atlanta Motor Speedway. We're underway in the YesterYear Cup Racing Series. Drivers, I think, John, we saw drivers prefer that outside line when you could get together in a clump here. But this early in the race, are you willing, with no quick repairs, a small incident limit, are you going to go up and hug the wall this early?
Yeah, but I'm a dirt guy, so I don't have the most amount of brains of a race car driver. That's probably proven time and time again. But you know what? These guys, the nice thing about these cars, they're not moving around that much on the track. Out there practicing with them earlier, I was up high, I was in the middle, down low. These cars are really stable through the corner, and that's going to really allow them to kind of run all over this track.
Yeah, we got the trash man leading the way, Daniel Hill, on the top side trying to get a run. He's got the 23 of Josh Robinson, your defending series champion, on the outside. John, we saw him leading the way at Daytona, but coming to that white flag out front's maybe not where you want to be. Are you having that same feeling tonight at at Atlanta, or are we a little more comfortable being out front?
I think you're a little more comfortable being out front, depending on who's behind you. Is it a friend or a foe behind you? And you're still going to need help, I think, to close the deal here tonight. I don't think you can do it on your own. Whoever's occupying that rearview mirror would depend on where I'd want to be at the end of this thing.
And Tom Ogle really trying to get that outside line rolling. He's that third car, black and pink, number 11. He was all over the rear end of Josh Robinson going down the backstretch, and Josh was all over the rear end of Daniel Hill. So you got to be careful when you're that third car. I know you want to move the line, but so early in the race, I don't know if you want to be that guy, be this aggressive, but I mean, they've showed time and time again, John, they've got a lot more talent than I do. That's why I'm up here.
Yeah, and here's a big difference between here and Daytona. Daytona, when you would get a run and it would stall out or something, you could just barely drag the breaker a little bit, and you wouldn't create an accordion effect here. If you've got to get out of the brakes, or get on the brakes, or you let out of the gas, you can stack those guys up. If you look at that outside line, they are nose to tail, 10 cars, line there. Someone checks up, that's going to be a problem for those guys that are 6th, 7th, 8th in that line.
Yeah, and we've seen here in the pack, we've got the top 21 rolling around, and I like where Michael Dow is, that 60 machine, just hanging at the back of the front pack. I think that's where you want to be right now. You let the mistakes happen in front of you, but John, at the same time, that's something you and I talked about. We didn't touch on with the viewers here, but Daytona, if something happens in front of you, not that you have more time to react, but you have a lot more room, and it just seems like here at Atlanta, everything's funneled to one place.
It is, especially through the quad oval that they just went through, but even the corner is a lot tighter. So usually here, with the speed you're carrying, I say this a lot we got a caution.
Oh, yeah, and you see cars funnel up towards that outside wall. Guys trying to go down to the inside. Oh, not able to hold the brakes. A little more contact, but we'll have to go back, see if we can get a look at maybe what kicked that off. We're looking at there the 107 of Andrew Kotska.
Yeah, and looking at Alan Wanamaker got turned into the wall there, but as I'm looking, as they come through the quad oval, there was some contact there, but I do think a little bit of netco kind of helped that a little bit. But yeah, that's the lines that you got to go through here, and guys are sharing the track, that it can get tight, and that's what happened there.
Yeah, and it really is. There's no set line. That was the perfect view that our cameraman threw up there. There really is no set line going through that tri-oval. It's kind of, you just try to respect the guy on the outside and respect the guy on the inside, but both guys fighting for that middle, and that's just where we kind of talked, early in the race, maybe give that guy a little more space, but we got our first guy jumping down pit road, the 7-car Daniel Hill. And what's interesting about this, John, if I was correct when I went out there and practiced, I told you it'd be around 70 laps for a tank of fuel. What that means is it's a 2-stop race. If he timed this right and this thing would stay green, Daniel possibly could do this on one more stop and maybe finish on fumes, but it is going to be close.
Well, I'll tell you, if I was anywhere towards the back, I'd be getting gas to stay out on the track a little bit longer, because here's the deal. Guys that pit early, that have to pit, if you can get an extra 2 or 3 laps on the track, that'll be huge, because when you enter coming out of going into turn 3 there, and then you re-enter the track all the way back in turn 2, you can lose a lap, maybe even 2 laps here. And if you can pin guys down and a caution comes out, maybe guys trying to get to pit road or coming out on cold tires and having an issue, you are going to be sitting in the catbird seat. So, yeah, if I'm towards the back, I am topping that bad boy off.
No, because, that's no slight at the drivers either, but we saw somebody, come off the apron and spin at Daytona, and that's probably the track where you least expect it. And here at Atlanta, the new configuration, you're running as hard as you can the whole time. And when you pull out of pit road on those cold tires, John, as well as I do, you've seen me do it in the GT3s plenty of times, man. It's not necessarily instinctual to bring those tires in slowly coming back out off pit road. And if you try to hammer it down, it's an easy loop and a real quick caution. So you're exactly right. Pit now. Don't be in that first group, and we'll just kind of hope some bad luck strikes.
Yeah, and the thing is, too, getting the heat in the tires, you talked about, but the other thing down there, you got all kinds of debris and stuff. And iRacing's track model, guess what? Just like real life, you got all kinds of rubber and all kinds of things down there. You get that stuff on your tires, push it a little too far, around you go. So, if there's going to be a mistake coming out of pit road or during the pit cycles, it's probably going to be on the exit of the pits between 1 and 2 there.
Track view, man. Hopefully we don't lose that camera tonight. They're pretty expensive. That is a beautiful view as The lights are off on the pace car here, so we should be going back green this time. We've got 10 in the books. Only 145 laps, so, I mean, if these boys kind of like what we expect, get some long green flag runs, it is not a lot of time. So the fact that the second pack, I think, maybe got a little lucky there, being able to regroup with the front guys after that first caution. I don't know if this is a place where you really want to separate yourself, but long way to go, and so far proven to work. As the pace car gets ready to pull off, Dave Matson in that Navy machine gets ready to fire in the Geico restart zone. As the green flag's high, it's ready to fly. Dave drops the hammer. Good restart. We're back underway. Lonnie trying to take advantage, maybe peek under the 68, but he left room. And if Kevin Strandberg wants to get low, which he does, plenty of room.
Yeah, and it looked like Patrick Martindale on the outside row there was started in the wrong gear, stacked the outside line in the back half of that field, and you've already got separation as they go down the backstretch here. You got two groups just real quickly right off the bat.
And looking now, we're down to 35 cars on the lead lap. Other cars still on pit road, so nobody even in that one lap down position. I think that's going to kind of be the case here tonight, John. It's not old Atlanta where we were hitting the brakes, where, you know, you wreck, you may be able to get back out there and compete. If you get this thing into the wall going 180 here at Atlanta, you get one mistake, that's it.
Yeah, when you hit something here, it's usually pretty big, that's for sure. And I'm sure these guys are cognizant of that too. Like I said, you know, you got to play chess out there, think maybe a couple moves ahead when you go to do something. Just because you have a run on somebody doesn't always mean you have to take it. And, you know, that's how I'd approach these races. You know, does it make sense? You know, does it put me in a bad spot? Does it put the other guy in a bad spot? No, you know, once you get down to, 10 to go, well, then you get really selfish at that point. You get what you get, and, you take, all the, you don't give as much. But here early on, that risk reward should always be in the calculus of every move you make.
Yeah, and, speaking of that risk reward, I like the risk right now of Chris Bates.
Oh, leaders around.
Yeah, inside he goes around. We finally get the caution, able to lock it up and keep it down on the inside of the racetrack. Oh my gosh! Oh, that pace car gives me a heart attack, John. I thought that was a car T-boning him. iRacing really punked me there. I felt for him.
Boy, if that's a Code Brown moment, if I've ever seen one there. That was a long slide. He got a little bit of help there. Got a little tap on one of the corners of the car. He didn't square him up to give him that push, and around he went. And you know what, though? Kevin Strandberg, I'm going to tell you, everybody that's watching, he had that car locked down, and it didn't roll around. That is textbook of what you're supposed to do when you wreck. You jump on the brakes so you're not rolling around, because if you don't do that and you continue to roll, you become a moving target for oncoming traffic. But when you can lock your car down and become stationary as quickly as you can, guys can make evasive actions a lot quicker. So kudos to Kevin there for getting that car locked down. He's going to have to come, obviously, take some new rubber, but that it doesn't matter if you're running short track, it doesn't matter any form of racing. That right there is how you do it.
Yeah, and you could tell even that the pace car probably gave him a little bit of a scare, because he doesn't even back up to straighten the car until he sees that mirror is completely clear and he has a free racetrack to turn around. So, a driver of his quality, it shows why he was up towards the front to begin with. And I expect that 68, not going to be an easy climb, but we're going to see him before this race is over, John.
I'd have to suspect that might be the case there. He really had that thing going. But, much like basketball, 6 fouls and you get benched. You're done. So, you see this a lot sometimes, where somebody will pick up 3 fouls, and then all of a sudden that changes how they play, because, well, if you get any more, eventually you're going to, be DQ'd from the event. Well, that probably was just a 4X now. So now on a spin where he doesn't hit anything, got to be in the back, has to work his way up. He's halfway to being benched. So that has got to come into play here. That that's one of the cool things about this league.
That was the best analogy anyone could have thought of. Perfect. Yeah, just change those fouls to 9 in basketball, and that's what we're playing with. But like you said, when you go around, you spin around, we're dealing with 4 at a time. You know, you're going to get a 1X if you lightly tap that wall, 1 for an off track, and I mean, he's playing a dance, so he's got to work his way on up real smooth. And speaking of smooth, let's take a look here. So far, everyone from 28th on back, so not a lot of drivers actually. Only 7 drivers pit there, but 3 drivers pit ahead. So still have 24 drivers out there who haven't made a pit stop. But John, with all these cautions, so far they're inching closer to maybe that one-stop strategy. Do you think that's going through any of their heads?
Oh, I would imagine so, if they can get past that halfway point, and start stretching their fuel that way. That would actually lead me to staying back in the pack and not trying to get out there and lead this thing. I'd probably be just content running, 6th, 7th, 8th, and just ride and not making any crazy things and stretch that fuel out a little bit.
I know we're not supposed to do this, but man, how nice would it be to see that DW17 leading this race at Atlanta? I'd love to see it.
You mentioned that last week.
Oh man, I love it.
Yeah, there's some cool paints in here. The 12 car has got there of Andy Thomas, Irwin Tools. That's old Kurt Busch scheme. The 9, the Hooters Chase Elliott scheme on here. You got a Cars scheme in here too. Fred Wolford there in the 95. So lots of cool stuff here. We talked to them about their paints last week, and they do make these cars look sharp here.
Yeah, I mean, if the Raging Cajun, who is that in the 18? Bill Martin, Mountain Dew. He's got my heart. As the pace car pulls off, I've literally got an open one right beside me. I haven't drank water in years, John, unless it's green. But the green flag's high. It's ready to fly. We're back underway. Chris Bates leads us to the restart. The top 4 got away pretty well here. Not sure what happened to row number 3, but that's where they kind of stacked up.
Yeah, that could always be somebody might have shifted early, shifted late, maybe started in the wrong gear even. And that can happen. That happened on the last restart too. And it just killed in the outside lane and actually got us to 2 different packs. But this time as we go down the backstretch, we've got 1 big pack heading into 3 for the first time here.
And Chris Bates still leading the way. He is your hard charger at the moment, up 13. Well, no, actually, Tom Embassy up 18 spots in that 05, but he started in the back. You mentioned, John, he's in the front pack now, but he wasn't so lucky earlier. These cautions have been their friend, and I know we keep saying it, and I don't want to jinx it, but we are going to get that long green flag run and that green flag pit stop. So you got to make sure you're close enough to the leaders that if you think you can win this thing, you can strike coming off a pit road.
Yeah, and if we do get the green flag, I think, barring if this thing was to go green here on in, the pit stops will most likely decide who wins, who loses here. Just, people can gain that much of an advantage.
And last week's winner at Daytona, he's marching his way. Started 6th, falling back outside of the top 10, but Fish in the 42, just hanging out. And that's what we saw that Dude Wipes machine do at Daytona. So if I'm around that guy, I'm on high alert because he never showed us what he had till right at the end. And that's what you see the top guys do week in and week out. There's no reason to go out there and flash your stuff in these early laps. Just keep them guessing.
Yeah, and Zach, we haven't really talked about this whole lot, but in open racing and iRacing, it's kind of every man for themselves. But the one thing that as we get more familiar with the league, there's a lot of teams out there, a lot of guys working together. We heard it in the post-race interviews about, talking to each other. There's a lot of that going on right now. I mean, this is a team game at this point. Guys are helping each other. They're just running their strategies together. That really dictates what this racing looks like early on.
No, I mean, yeah, you brought it up today. No spoilers there, but the Cup race, big help from the wrong manufacturer at the end. And it's like, it's all about the relationship you have with that driver in the car in front of you. If you screwed that guy over behind you, well, don't expect any help coming out of that rearview mirror. So this is where we go back to always race courteous, give that guy your room, and 9 times out of 10, John, it's going to come back to benefit you.
Yeah, I mean, whenever I've done this kind of racing too, you know, someone, you know, if I push someone out there, they bail on me and leave me high and dry and I fall back, that definitely stays in the memory bank. And not that I'm vengeful, but boy, I tell you what, I can't wait to do the same to them.
No, you're exactly right. And it's almost one of those things where you get a little bit of enjoyment pushing them towards the front and then selling them out at the end to go get it towards yourself. So it's just, you really got to watch. I mean, you know, not that us racers are bad people, but, you know, we don't forget things. We're very vindictive. We're going to try to do what's best for us at the end of the day.
But, you know, Zach, on the flip side of that, you know, there's a gentleman I worked with one time over in a different league in a different race on the track, but his name was Bob White. And he and I worked the whole thing, and we stayed together the whole time. We weren't teammates or anything else, but at the end of the race, when it came down to it, I became his wingman just because, hey, he's been there for me. I'm going to be there for you. I don't really have a chance to win. So there's two sides of that equation to doing the right thing out there on the track that might help you later on.
Almost bringing a tear to my eye with that. Rest in peace, Bob Light. We miss you, man. That guy has taught me so much. One of the best asphalt road racers this iRacing thing has ever seen, man. Absolutely phenomenal. And, you know, Bob, he would have loved this league, John. Yes. He would have absolutely ate this up.
Yes, he would. And unfortunately, we lost him to cancer a couple of years ago. And, tough thing here. But these guys here, I mean, you know what? They're doing a nice job. They're side by side here. And we talked about the outside line really kind of being the preferred line. But I'll tell you what, that inside line, Zach, it's hanging on there pretty good.
Yeah, and that's one of those things that, I mean, obviously I don't really know, haven't done a long run in these cars in a while, but I would assume the inside line, and I mean, these drivers showing me otherwise, I would think the inside line would be the preferred line early. Oh, we almost saw three.
Well, it would, there. But you got to be careful. The angles that you take it, they're wrecking.
Yeah, turn one.
They didn't wreck.
Hold on to it.
Wow.
Oh, man, Ryan, you had the best view on that, and I don't even think you knew it. You're right off the front.
I'm not even in this race. I'm not in a car, and I'm not in this race, but that just gave me a code brown. So what a nice job by these guys. What a heck of a save there. I don't know who that was, but he basically dirt tracked it through the corner at 170, 160 mile an hour and kept it together. Just absolutely amazing.
Yeah, and I mean, realistically, they basically are staying in one pack, too. I mean, it's a little bit of a gap to Greg Hammond, but they're close enough that if they line up, they're going to pull right in. And for all those drivers to just burp the throttle, go at 190 and get right back in it, that is crazy. These speeds, I mean, these camera angles really don't do it justice. They are flying around this racetrack.
Yeah, I know if I was in one of those cars, I probably would have killed everybody that was in that group. So, man, oh man, that was impressive, to be honest with you.
And now we're seeing the inside line there, that beautiful 17 that I like. I think they're starting to settle down. May have calmed them down a little bit, that outside line starting to take control. And I think, we're coming up on lap 30 here. Tires are going to start to age, and maybe drivers just not, finding the reward down there on the bottom. Maybe not worth the risk right now.
Well, and they might be building a little bit more heat, because as you come out of these corners here and the transitions to the front stretch and starts to kind of level off and flatten out, you believe it or not, even though you might not really be able to tell from any of our camera views, but you actually slide the tires a little bit coming out of the corners here. So that can add some unnecessary wear, but the more that you do that, the more you're going to probably slow yourself down a little bit and put some wear into those tires and and create a pushing sensation as the run goes on.
Yeah, and one of those racetracks where in the past, we were talking about it up here in the booth before. You used to be able to kind of use the brakes a little bit to help turn the race car, but man, if you're in the brakes now, you're going down pit road. So if you ruin these tires and you start to lose that grip and you push coming out of the corner, John, nothing's going to save you.
No, it sure won't. And I tell you, anybody that's behind somebody, that gets into that kind of trouble. We talked about it earlier. They're probably going to be a wreck on a wreck here. But you know what? The bottom line is starting to kind of inch back up a little bit.
Yeah, seeing Don there in the 07 trying to make a move, and they're the Mountain Dew machine holding on the high side in that second pack. And I understand, racing out a little bit in that second pack, but that 68, did you see that move going there into the corner? He shot down into the low line.
boy, that orange car behind him, I can't tell the number, but you can see that gap. John, he got way more scared than I did. You saw him let out that throttle.
Yeah. And, you know, the thing is, too, I think the bottom actually works really good, center of the corner. You know, they make some gains, but then the outside line, by the end of the front or back stretch there, I think they erase those gains just because I think they get off the corner, maintain a higher RPM, and carry a lot more speed down the quad oval and the back stretch.
Yeah, we really are seeing it. I don't know when the change came, but when I was a kid, I feel like NASCAR, you know, not that it was ever beat them, do this and that, but, you know, there were a lot more dive bombs, and it seems like with the newer car, John, it's not F1, don't get me wrong, but it really is so momentum-based and just trying to flow all the corners together. NASCAR's really evolved as a sport.
Well, especially at what we call the plate tracks, you're you know, in this now because of the new banking is one of them. You know, you've got to get those runs and capitalize the runs, because we were out there practicing earlier. You know, when you're in the draft, you know, the speeds were about 183, 184 mile an hour. You dip out of that draft and it's like dropping a parachute. All of a sudden you drop down to 173 mile an hour. So that's a huge difference. And, you know, if you're going to make a pass or attempt to pass, you're going to have help, because if you don't, the line's just going to go right around you.
Yeah, and speaking of help, let's duck up front here. The 24 ducked low here, and he's got some help. Got two cars on the bottom. We may see a battle for the lead, John. You talked about the bottom line making a comeback. Well, here they come.
Yeah, and there's more of them on the bottom, which, you know, the say nose to tail might give them that little bit extra speed that they need coming out of those corners. So, you know, that appears to really, truly, and honestly be the case. And, yeah, that bottom line has definitely made their presence known back here at the front of the pack.
And you got to wonder, if you're able to go up here, set the pace. Do you go upstairs and, you know, join the top line, maybe make that line a little bigger to save the tires? Or if we get the bottom line rolling to the lead, do you stay there? What do you do?
We talked about this. You got somebody behind you just pushes you out to the lead and you abandon them. Yeah, that might bite you a little bit later, you know. But we talked earlier also about the teams here. You know, you got a teammate behind you. You're going to stick with them and keep them, you know, behind you as their pusher. But, you know, the thing, too, that's really difficult about being in a pack like this, if you're that sixth, seventh car in one of these lines, you have to stay disciplined, because as soon as you get out, it's only going to hurt the entire line if you try to make something happen. And you're really going to shoot yourself in the foot if you're not careful.
We're about to cross the line here, coming to lap 39. With the cautions, my best guess is we're probably about 34 laps away from our first pit stop, right around that halfway mark. And I think, you know, John, I talk about fuel mileage all the time, and I'm going to do it all season, because when you're of my talent level, John, that's how you steal races. You gotta think, and you gotta try to just beat other drivers where they're not. And I understand Brian Lindsay right now wanting to lead this race, but just like Daytona, you got a snow plow on the front of that thing. And you're burning a lot more fuel than everyone behind you. So I just don't know if I really want to be the lead car this early. Now, I know it's the safest place, so it's a double-edged sword, but man, I just don't know.
Well, the other thing you have to think about, too, though, is if we get a caution and everybody comes to the pit, if you burn more gas than everybody, well, guess what? You're going to sit in that pit stall for a couple fractions of a second, maybe even a second longer, to get that car filled with fuel. And then, well, you know, on pit road, everybody coming in at the same time, that can cost you a few spots.
We're seeing that second pack there almost dipped into the screen. They're all single file. I think they were done playing that double file. Hey, they want to catch up to these guys. They've really seen that first pack extend the
one's
gap.
around. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, hard into the wall. No caution just yet.
There it is.
Comes. Big
Robert
hit.
Carrasco.
Yeah, Guarisco. I wonder how that kicked off here.
Looked like he tried to go down and, the 07 had a run and he closed the door and it just contact. It's kind of one of those bang-bang deals. I think he started moving down before the 07 got there, but you know, he had the kind of the run there, and it looked like he had the lane open, and it just closed instantly. And yeah, that's a pretty hard hit there by Garosco.
Yeah, definitely. You know, two guys just fighting for the same space, and I think that's a case of the 07 there. He lifts out of that every time, John, if he has the time. But they were just so close together, and he made the move so quick that I don't think he was going to be able to help him. But now, pit road, fuel strategy is out the window, John. Everybody's coming down pit road.
Yeah, they are, and I'm going to tell you too. We didn't realize, you know, Lonnie Corey really packed the wall too. He got up there and got tapped. So, yeah, these pit stops here, and even under caution, like I said, you got to put a little more fuel in the car. What you want to do is be careful of resisting that temptation of getting a little more and getting the speeding penalty here.
So we had two cars stay out here, John. Daniel Hill last pitted lap 8, and Kevin Strandberg last pitted lap 15. Now, I don't know if the 7 here, you know, maybe he's got a deal worked out with who's the sponsor on that thing. You know, maybe he's got a required amount of TV time he needs to be in the podium to make the check this week. But I would have come down pit road with everyone else there.
Well, I'll tell you what. Let's see if he pulls into pit road when they come around here. If he doesn't, why don't we pull him up in the booth and ask him what's going on, figure out what his strategy is.
Look at you, John. All those brilliant ideas. Why didn't I think of that?
Well, you know, you don't understand. That probably used up the only brilliant idea that I'm allowed here now for the year. So the rest of this season, it's on you, man.
We'll see. It looks like he's staying committed.
It does.
Out here. Let's pull him up here real quick, Ryan. Hey, Daniel, Shaggy up in the booth, man. You got a copy?
Yeah, 10-4.
All right, man. Staying out of the pits here. What are we thinking? I mean, how much fuel do we have left here? How long can we stay out?
I could probably got another 38, 39 laps I can run green, which, you know, will put me at a one-stop race. So it's just kind of where I want to be. You know, it's gonna be kind of interesting how it shakes out.
Well, hey, you're getting one to go. I was gonna plug you a lot more, but good luck here, Daniel, and I hope the strategy pays off, man. Go get him.
Yeah, thanks, buddy.
Now, you know, I wanted to ask him here, but I didn't want to flood him with one to go. But now, I mean, him and the 68, John, they've got to be best friends now, right?
I would think so. Yeah, it's too bad the lights went out. I'd like to say tires any kind of concern here, you know, because if it's a gas only, boy, oh boy, they may be in the catbird seat here. But you know what will kill? You know what will kill these guys is if there's another caution 30 laps from now and everybody pits. You know, unless they're still out front, then it will cycle through and they'll be good. But man, if they pit 37, 38 laps, and then the caution comes out at the 40, 45 laps from now, yikes, they're going to be in a world of trouble.
Yeah, so with these cautions, he said he's got about another 35 laps, so that would almost get him to lap 80. So those cautions extended it about almost 10 laps here. So that, nobody else is going to make it the rest of the way either. It's basically what I'm saying, without a lot of help. So either way, I guess, you know, he hasn't written himself off yet. He's definitely still in this thing. I was a little more shocked by the decision, but he made me a believer. Is the green flag's high? It's ready to fly. We're back underway at Atlanta Motor Speedway, lap 45.
It looks like everybody gets up through the gears this time. No problems here as they go off into turns 1 and 2. Still formed up in a good pack as they come out of the turns.
Got Mick Arthur up here for one of the first times in that 83. The Canadian, that's a neat paint job too. I don't remember him from Daytona. Maybe he was there. My apologies if he was. But John, looking at the side of that, we got Bass Pro Shops on the door. No, you look a little closer, Ryan. There's a real small circle.
You're right. I see Bass Pro on the bumper and everything else, and yeah, kind of makes me happy. See a car out there with the Bass Pro logo on it. For those of you who don't know, watching, I am. Oh, we got one around 68. This time he's not going to get lucky. Big wreck. The big one. It's the big one.
You're exactly right, and this is where we talk. They all funnel to the same spot. I mean, you basically got to come to a stop, and that's what the Diet Mountain Dew machine does. I'm going to want to watch that onboard later, Ryan. he basically comes to a complete stop, and that's the only thing that can save you here.
Yeah, that 59 got in there, and yeah, just I think he had room there, and the 68 probably didn't realize how close they were, and yeah, man, oh man, oh man, that wadded up a lot of cars.
I believe the 18. Yeah, the 18. Let's see this Diet Mountain Dew machine. Oh yeah, now watch. Bill Martin. He is going to park this thing right against the outside wall. It's the only thing he could do, John. I mean,
Well,
what do you do? It looks like your house is on fire. How do you get out of this? I mean, that's unbelievable.
that's a smart driver. That's someone who's got a lot of brains down in their foot, and I can tell you that right there. Those are your unicorn drivers, the guys that can have some brains in that foot there. Yeah, what a nice move there, and good heads up, good awareness of what's going on there.
Yeah, and I mean, literally, we just saw all the damage that consumed all those race cars. I mean, John, he just gained himself 15 points easily. You know, I mean, just by coming to a stop and racing to get himself to the end of this thing.
Yeah, right now pit road looks like a parking lot with all the cars in there, kind of getting some work done. So, you know, the other thing too, we touched on the top of the show, that nine incident level. There's some guys in there that took some hits that now are going to be under the gun there, that they better be mindful of where they are on that incident list.
And that 59, the guy running P2 right now, Sean Foltz. So he was able to drive through that accident, but man, that rear end looks sick. I don't know how healthy that's going to be.
Yeah, that's racing 101 though. Usually the guy that, and it doesn't matter if it's here or you know, short tracks or wherever. And I'm not, you know, not throwing Sean here under the bus, but you know, it's usually the cause of an accident usually is the one that gets away from it. I've benefited from that. You know, I've accidentally, you know, my bumper has caused some carnage, and you know, and I've survived. But I've also been behind folks that I've watched start stuff, and you know, you get wadded up in the process. And I laugh about it, and I'm sure it's not that funny. Some of those guys caught up, but you know, I mean, man, you see that more times than not.
No,
you're right about that rear end. That spoiler's up in the air. I'm wondering if that's, well, we're gonna have to watch him on the start. I think he'll be good getting through 1 and 2, but as they get to that backstretch, does that inside line start to move, because that he's just got so much aero damage to that car? Does that hold up that outside line?
Yeah, and this is where, you know, I mean, John, if you're in front of me and I am in the outside behind you, I'm begging you to let me by and you try to push. I'm telling you every single thing that's wrong with that race car, because the 24, I mean, if Brian gets stuck behind him, that's going to be a frustrating scenario, I would think. But we'll have to see how the car handles, what kind of speed it has. And, you know, you talked about that, the spoiler sticking up in the air. That could tighten up that race car a lot more.
Parachute. Now, he'll be fine if he's sitting behind somebody. I don't think he'll be that effective. But out in front of a line like that, yeah, we'll have to see how that works out.
Yeah, I think Brian would have to do most of the work there in that 24 if the 59 is going to get to the front, that's for sure. But we should see the pace car drop off this time. Lights are off. Here we go. The leader, Dan Hill, ready to drop the hammer as we enter the Geico restart zone with a late restart there. I like that. Keep the drivers guessing. Good jump for the inside line. Not so much, though, for the 59. And we talked about that rear end damage.
Oh, we got a wreck on the front stretch.
Ooh, we'll be able to straighten it out
there
here.
It is.
There it is.
Yeah, it happened on the inside line, and I don't know if the 77 of Roger Hurley missed a gear. It's kind of what has that look. Oh, he just checked up. He was going to get in the back. Oh, there was a checkup up on the inside line all the way up to the 09 or the 60, sorry, of Michael Dow. That's where we talked about the accordion effect. If you watch the restart, watch the 60, I think just misses a gear and stacks that inside line up.
Yeah, and I mean, you can just see the speed difference. The car's on the outside absolutely rolling by, and just not, the patience just not there on the inside, and that's a tough break for Roger. He checks up in time, but guy behind him just can't see it that quick, and he gets run over. And
Yeah,
this is
when you're nose to tail, you can't see through these cars. So yeah,
Oh, no.
that's nothing. That's a tough deal all the way around.
No, yeah. I mean, you saw the view that we had with Bill Martin on the high side, and we had the pleasure of having banking. When they're all driving on the flat apron there, coming to the restart, you can see absolutely nothing. But you
Zach,
see there
our
on
leader.
leader coming up pit road.
With the 59 here, so I'll be interested to see if that 59 stays and does a little work on that car. I mean, you got a little bit of time before that pace car gets back around here, which I'm almost jealous of these guys. I mostly run short track stuff. You know, you get in, maybe able to get 10 seconds worth of repair before you got to get out before you lose a lap.
Yeah, and I wonder if these guys starting to see the writing on the wall. The car count's starting to dwindle a little bit, and definitely not within their fuel window. You're not going to go 95 laps, I don't think, if you're the leader. But at this point, I think it's more risky to get caught out needing to do a green flag pit stop than it is just falling to the back of the line.
Yeah, and at this point too, with like you said, some of the herd thinned out a little bit. You know what? Why not take some tires here? Because I'm going to bet the last stops for a lot of these guys, if they are green flag stops, they're going to take fuel only. They're going to want to get in and out of there. I don't know that there's that much tire fall off, that makes that big of a difference in these cars. I went out there earlier, ran a good long run out there in Zach. I mean, I used up barely 10% of my tires. So, there's some room there to extend those tires out a little bit.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. And I haven't run these in such a long time, but I know it used to be the case. And I know at Michigan, boy, it's not fun to do. When you just take 2 tires, it really upsets the balance of the car. So I am going to go 4 or none, and I'm with the none camp, I think, Jim.
Well, how about we do story time, roll time? I can tell you one strategy that doesn't work. I'm not going to name any names, but he's a teammate of mine who drives a 55 car. But we came into pit doing a GT race, and somehow he accidentally only clicked 1 tire to change. And I'm going to tell you, 1 tire does not work. So we got to make sure that you make sure you click the buttons you need to. Luckily here it's a 1 button for right sides, one for left side. So a little bit easier, but yeah, 1 tire. Don't ever try it.
Yeah, I don't plan on it, and well, sorry about your bad luck, Steven. Not to throw your name out there, but boy, oh boy, that's one we'll never forget or let you live down. That's for sure.
That's right. So, but here we go. They're lining back up. We're going to go back at this here now. We've kind of had some cautions here now. I have to think they're going to slow down, like I said, or settle down here a little bit, because that incident level. That's got to start creeping up for a lot of these guys, even though they might be, their cars might be in good workable shape. They, a slide off the track, a 2X or something like that, yeah, you're not going to get any damage, but heck, that might end your race at this point.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm just feeling the pace. Drivers dwindling down. The last time we saw Jerry Isaacs make his move towards the front, we went a long green flag run at Daytona. So keep an eye out on that Ghost Energy 51. Love the paint scheme and the way he drives that thing, very smart. We see the 18 on the outside of row 3 too. That was the guy who came to a complete stop on the racetrack, and now he finds himself in the top 10. So as the pace car dives off here, got a lot of interesting storylines, and I think the most important one is the one John touched on, that 9X. So drivers need to settle down, or else we may see some cars disappearing as we're in the Geico restart zone. Good jump for MacArthur this time. Dwayne waited. The last restart went early in the box this time. He gets a good jump.
Yeah, and just to touch on that 9X real fast here as we get going again, there are 6 cars, if we look at the entry list, that have black flags next to them. So I think we're up to about 6 cars now that have been DQ'd with that incident level.
Battle for the lead, man. Look at this 07 wasting no time. Easterlin, here he comes. We saw him involved in an earlier accident. Didn't affect that front end. Saw him and Guarisco get together in that contact going into 3, but he hasn't let it affect him. He's driven that thing up to the front. But now, the outside, that's where you want to be going down the straightaway. It's all that speed coming down out the corner.
Yeah, and I think the part of that, think about this, when you turn your wheel, the more wheel you turn, the more speed you scrub. Well, if you're on the bottom, you're putting more wheel into the car. It might not be much wheel, but it's enough to make a difference you know, a mile an hour here, mile an hour there. So when you're on the top, you don't have to turn into the corner so much. That's part of the reason why it allows you to really get that momentum, get the RPMs up, and really carry a heck of a lot of speed coming out of the corners.
Yeah, who would we be if we didn't highlight the boss man here, John? Up 32 spots. Victor Lane got that thing up into the top 10, and right when it matters here, we're just getting ready to come to the second half here in about 20 laps. So you didn't need to be up here in the beginning like we kept saying. You just need to survive, let the cars dwindle a little bit, and now we can get ready to go racing.
Yeah, my guess is, you know, at the end of this, if we talk to him, he's going to have some wreck avoidance stories to tell about this race.
Yeah, the next, I hope we don't get another one, but the next caution, we got to go to the 18 of Bill Martin. Got to remind me to do that, because that move to come to a stop, that was one of the best driving shows I've ever seen.
Yeah, I'm starting to see some blocking here a little bit. And, you know, those wrecks that we've seen going into turn 2, I think a little bit of blocking are part of the reason that some of those may have happened a little bit, rather than just accept the fact that maybe somebody's got their nose in there. So we're going to have to keep an eye on that. You're going to have a little give and take to make that work.
Yeah, and, you know, I saw going there into 1. The thing that scares me, and I love pulling side draft, don't get me wrong, but floating up to that next guy in the tri-oval, that is risky, because you never know where he's going to go. And, man, you've got to trust the guy beside you to do that.
Yeah, they've got to know where you are. You've got to know where you're at. You've got to understand what they're going to be doing with their car through that. There's a lot of factors why that side drafting through the tri-oval, is probably not really advisable. Now, Zach, it looks like we're going to have some cars that have come off of pit road that are out in front of this pack. Now, Daytona, it was really easy for guys to hold their line, get to the bottom of the track, and work around just because of the room. They're not going to have that luxury here. There's not a whole lot of room to run and hide.
No, there's really not. And I mean, there we caught it a little bit on the top of the screen there. That Napa machine, the 33, I believe, he just tightened up and hit the wall by himself off of 4. So we're getting at that stage now, John, that we talked about, where the car will tighten up a little bit. And you come up on a lap car 15, 20 mile an hour faster, and that car starts tightening up. There's not much you can do to avoid a wreck.
Yeah, and here they are. They're bearing down on a car here that maybe not in turns 1 and 2, but 3 and 4. They might catch him. We'll see if he pulls down and maybe gets out of the way on the backstretch. But absent that, I think things are going to get awful sketchy over here in 3 and 4. Out there he goes to the inside. Classy move.
Yeah, that 17 gets to the inside. That really is a classy move, because this is one of the few racetracks we'll come to where really not a lot of room for lap cars to get out of the way just at the speeds we're running. It's almost, coming up on a roadblock when you're flying down the highway doing 70.
Yeah, and I don't even know what advice I would give anybody. You go up high, up along the wall, and hold your line. You stay down on the line there and hold the line, let everybody work around you. I mean, at the end of the day, your best bet is holding your line. But, boy, for everybody else, that's a hold your breath moment.
And Easterlin and MacArthur still leading the way side by side, but Easterlin's just been getting these runs going down the front stretch and stealing every lap. And if you're MacArthur, I think, this is a good test time for you. You see the inside, you can get there in the center of the corner, but maybe if you want to get the job done tonight, you may have to go to that outside unless you got a whole lot of help behind you.
Another lap guy got down out of the way. I like to see that. That's the hallmark of a good league. Guys kind of know the score, know what's going on, and don't want to cause problems to their fellow competitors. That is a really cool deal to see, and a big compliment big kudos, should I say, everybody in this league for that.
Yeah, and I don't care how fast they're driving by them. Everybody who does it notices that name on the relative and appreciates it. Yeah. And 100% will look to reciprocate that in the future, because like you said, I mean, that's the DNA of a good league. And John, we've been a part of so many where, I get Daytona in the last 5 laps trying to push a teammate to a win. But boy, oh boy, at this stage, let the guys race.
Yeah.
In the 11, we got a new leader there, Tom Ogle. He was behind that 07 for a long time. decided to duck down to the low side, got a good push from that 83, and he was able to take the lead. And I think it's all a factor of, John, we've mentioned it time and time again, that top line spreading out a little bit now, about 3 or 4 cars back, and the bottom line, meanwhile, looks a little tighter.
Yeah, and you know, as tight as they're running too, I should probably mention this. We saw one blow up last week, but overheating may become an issue for some of these guys. I'm wondering if any of these guys are running hot and having to get some air on the grill, and that's maybe why you see that line breaking apart a little bit. Guys tucking their nose out to get air on in those cars.
Yeah, we saw the top line really check up there. Not too sure what happened with the 07, but remember, he was leading a couple laps ago. He's just fallen back to 5th here. That top side really checked up. He's able to get it rolling, so nothing wrong. But that 23 behind him, Josh Robinson, he looked pretty worried there for a while. He almost ducked it in the middle 3 wide, but now they're teaming back up and are probably going to give it one more go.
They sure are. It seemed to have calmed down here a little bit. Top 4 are running nose to tail there, and those guys seem to be being pretty smart about it. But you got the 11 there, Tom Ogle running first. That 83 car, Dwayne MacArthur second. 24, Brian Lindsay, and then Jerry Isaacs there. Those front 4, those cats, they're nose to tail. And like I said, familiarity with the league will come here. So those guys have the look of teammates, or at least in the same room talking to each other. And nobody's trying to do anything. They're just clicking the laps off and doing what they need to do.
Yeah, and now we see the 23 and the 9 fall in line here. Everybody's starting to settle down. We got the top 9, single file. And like you said, John, coming up here in this middle stage of the race, I think, this is the time where you just ride with your teammate, figure out what's going on, and this is where you need a buddy to pit with. So you got to be talking, you got to be figuring out fuel strategy while you're calling down single file, because we've been running double file. You haven't had a lot of time to click through those boxes and maybe make the adjustments you need.
Yeah, and this is a track too. I think short pitting is all out, because if a caution comes out, the amount of time you spend on pit road at reduced speeds is just too costly. You're going to have to, at least in my opinion, run these things dry before you come into pit road.
Yeah, I'm right there with you as close as I can. I don't know if I want to go down in a giant pack, maybe 6, 7 cars at most. Pit road can get a little sketchy here through 3 and 4, but if you could just ride around maybe 6th, 7th in line right now, out of the throttle most of the time, get yourself that extra lap or 2, I think you're sitting in a good spot. They're racing here in the back, at the back of the front pack there. That was pretty close to being another caution. Guys dipping around, and right now not too much of a worry, but you don't want to be running side by side at the back of the pack and side drafting off each other and possibly lose this pack. So I think the 105 hurt us. They're going to fall in line, John.
Well, right now it's a good idea to do so, because you got a lap car that got caught and has to ride that high line all the way around the track here. So if they were too wide, those sketchy moments we talked about would be in full display here, but luckily that's not the case here.
Tom Ogle paces the field, ready to come to lap 73. I guess technically this is halfway. I mean, you're not going to get a halfway on 145 unless you're going to call it the backstretch. So, we're halfway here. And the guys, as I tried to hint to earlier, John, this is we're getting our green flag run here, and the guys, as well as they should be, this is the quote-unquote boring time of the race. They just need to get through the meat here until they're ready for dessert.
Yeah, and as a driver, it's anything but boring, because here's where you can kind of play, I don't want to say games, but you can, okay, where can I get a run on a guy? Where do I, where's the best place to start a pass, all this stuff. Now's the time to test those things. But I'm going to tell you something that's happening here. About mid-pack, they're kind of checking up a little bit, and they're back to 2 wide all the way back there with the 95 and the 12 of Andy Thomas here. So they are starting to get racy back in there a little bit, knowing that maybe they do need to move forward a little bit.
Well, hopefully that Cars machine isn't doing any dirt tracking here tonight on the asphalt, but I love seeing that Rusty's paint job. You know, John, I wasn't even a kid when that came out, but if you don't like that movie, I don't know if we can be friends. What a great movie.
Yeah, and we're back to 2 wide for 4th here. So, yeah, but the Jerry Isaacs and Kevin Masur there, they're running for 4th there. But, yeah, you're right. A lot of good classic movies. My favorite probably racing movie still to date, though, would probably still be Grand Prix with James Gardner back. That's how old I am. I'm an old fart, black and white movie, but really good racing movie.
I'll tell you, you know, I missed out on it, but to anybody out there watching, if you haven't watched the movie Rush.
Oh, contact.
Oh, yeah, there was contact there between the 07 and the 51. They're not done yet, John.
No, he went right back at him to maybe get the side draft there a little bit to slow him down, but that has really allowed those first 3 cars to get away.
No, and yeah, that's the example that we tried to look for at Daytona, but you pull up, and there the 07 got loose once again, man. He's fighting that right rear tire, and you gotta wonder, he's got to be hoping for a caution. That thing doesn't seem like it's handling that well, John.
No, it sure doesn't. And now look behind these guys. You know, all of a sudden that line is kind of gone away. You see guys starting to peek out to the outside, and because they realize that 07 is a liability right now. Oh, the 7 is just powering on the outside of 1 and 2, followed by the 88. Those guys.
Yeah, those new tires.
Yep,
we watched them. Yeah,
that front 4 just looking at that, loving that stuff. But boy, they're dicing it up back here now.
Yeah, and now what do you do, John, if you're the 7 of Daniel Hill and you drive up through this field? Do you put yourself on the pit strategy with the leaders, or do you keep going if you drive by? I mean, this is a tough deal for him right now.
You just hang on. I mean, like I said, the amount of time that you lose by pitting right now, I don't, at this late in the race, I just don't know if you recover from it.
And we're even seeing the 59 there, a couple cars back from him. Now he's a lap down.
Yeah, he's lapped down, Dyson.
But yeah, even with the new tires, John, he's been able to mix it up. So it just shows, like, even if you have a little damage, the car's maybe not running at full song, tires may make a difference here this evening.
Yeah, I think they do. I think tires will make a difference anywhere, especially with these cars and the amount of power they have. That extra bit of grip is always going to be welcome, I think, pretty much anywhere you go. But they're back to single file now, so I think they kind of watch those front 4 get away, and maybe somewhere in that line just decided, hey, we need to try to reel these cats back in here.
Yeah, and if you're Mosier, I like that gap that the 43 car has. You're just maintaining right behind the front 3. Not close enough, though, or not close enough to the guys behind you that you're helping them, but just in case they make a little bit of a mistake, there's no reason to ride right on those guys, especially as you're closing in on more lap traffic. But that's a lot easier to do when you're in a group of 4. I think they'll appreciate that.
Yeah, 100% here. But yeah, that green flag run that you talked about, it's here.
And they're still mixing it up. Chris Bates now stuck on the outside, that Rusty's machine back on the inside, and doing side draft down the backstretch on each other. These guys, man, they are just mixing it up everywhere on the racetrack. But the front 4 doing their own thing. If you're Jerry Isaacs, I mean, are you in a hurry, John, to run those guys down? There's still a long way to go, but I don't like how far they are out in front of me right now before pit stops.
Yeah, I don't either. I'm yelling, probably at my virtual mirror saying, guys, stay in line. We got to run these guys down. And they are actually running them down. So, I just don't know how long it's going to take to get there, but they are closing.
Yeah, and I think that's got a lot to do with, I was crediting Mosier there up in 4th, but maybe if you got those 4 cars a little tighter, you might go a little quicker. As the lead pack closes on 2 lap cars, they choose the outside, giving them plenty of room, so not going to suck any side draft here and slow them down like the 51 of Isaac's probably hoping for, but a 2-car pack side by side in front of you, John, that's going to widen that air wake. They're going to close on them even faster.
Yeah, but look here, those 2 lap cars, what did they do? They ducked right in to make that line bigger. that's going to give them a little bit extra speed here. I mean, that other line is closing rapidly at this point, but those extra cars in that line, that's going to make a difference.
Yeah, no, it really is. You can see, I mean, they're already going about a mile an hour faster down the straightaway than they were before. The second group's still closing, but they're coming up on that 17 who politely pulled to the inside last time, John. If I'm him, you maybe race a little harder this time, try to join in line, because you could help these guys out up front if you really wanted to.
Oh yeah, and right there he made all those guys go high while that backpack gets to go low, so that is huge. 17, I'm sure not intentional, probably cost these guys, but are going to be able to pull in here. But now the big question's got to be those 3 lap cars at the end of that trail. What's going to happen when this other line catches these guys? Do they just hop to the outside, try to start, continuing their push forward, or do they just stick in line, like the 59 of Foltz, who's been in the middle of that second pack, but he's been in there in the middle and being and contributing to their speed. So, I mean, boy, there's a lot of different things that are about to shake down here.
And I think right now, if we look at the lucky dog, it's between the 14 of the Raging Cajun and Sean Foltz in the 59. So if you're the 14, I think that's kind of what you're focused on here.
Yep.
Sean back in that second pack. I think you play nice with the leaders, but at some point, you have to worry about self-preservation, and you got to keep yourself in that lucky dog spot.
Yeah, now that might force those 2 guys to get up and start mixing it up, to fight for that position there. So, yeah, like I said, there's a lot of things that are about to shake down. These guys now are about 15, 20 car lengths behind the leaders here, so that second group. So, yeah, another 2, 3, maybe 4 laps. We're gonna start seeing these guys mix it up maybe a little bit.
Yeah, and we're over halfway through the fuel run. These guys pitted on lap 42 and now on lap 49, so 45 laps on this set of tires, if they even took tires. Some guys, maybe wishing they would have. Not every pit stop looks like it was a tire stop, but some guys were a little shorter in there, and I think it may have been the case of where we saw, who was that? The 07. Let's take a look at his pit stop. No, okay, 15 seconds. So he did take tires, but I thought maybe, some of those guys might be the ones struggling.
Yeah, you heard me earlier talk about that. I'd take the tires there because that last stop going to be a fuel stop, and that would, at the end of the day, make you have a little stronger hand there to play because, well, you've got fresher tires, albeit 20 laps difference. But the 17 pulls down, heads down pit road, pulls out of that pack. But guess what, Zach? We have basically a nose to tail choo-choo train now.
Yeah, we really do, and I don't think it's the time to. Well, the 51 doesn't agree with me. I was going to say I don't think it's time to duck out of line. But Isaac's, man, he wants to get that Ghost Energy machine some TV time. They're able to run down the front pack.
Well, but think about it from the driver's standpoint. Out his windshield, he saw that pack way up the road. He was able to drive them down and basically run them down and get to them. Well, why not pull out to it? Because at that point, you're feeling like, yeah, these guys have nothing for us. Let's just stay in line and let's just go around them.
No, yeah, and I mean, the fact that it's not something that Jerry probably will complain about or whatever, but, we see a car right now blinking in front of him a little bit, actually. And, being 2 lap cars in front of him, that's not where you want to be if you're the 51. So I'm sure that has a lot to do with that duck and peak on the outside.
And that blinking thing, too, I'm sure that everybody has probably seen the development update here for the next build here in a few weeks, but there's going to be a system that if you're blinking, it's going to black flag you.
Yeah, and supposedly from what I was reading, you're going to have to stay in the pits until iRacing deems the connection fair.
Yep.
Which I think, at the end of the day, I don't think you're going to have any racer complain about that move.
No, you just have to chalk it up to, gremlins, a plug wire coming off, or you just, engine issue. I mean, that's really, at the end of the day, that's part of real world racing. Sometimes your motor pops. Well, your computer's your motor.
Yeah, I've mentioned before, John, that I've done dirt racing. When I was 13 years old, my dad charged my battery before we went to the racetrack. He told me to tighten said battery. Did I tighten the battery? No. I'm leading the race going down the front stretch, and the battery cable came off. So all sorts of stuff can't happen to you, and it normally doesn't happen at a good time.
That's why my pit crew gave me one special door on the toolbox, and it had something to basically adjust my seat or steering wheel. I wasn't allowed to touch anything on the car.
Yep. You get down there when you got the helmet on, you know, it maybe doesn't sound fair. You get to have all the fun, but you really are just focused on that race. And, you know, there are few that have the talent to go out there and work on the race car and drive.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you can tell them what you need, and so I mean, it comes back for the driver, all the feedback you can give to the crew and the guys. Those are the experts. You know, the drivers are the experts at driving, and you know, and there's nothing wrong with that. You need both. You need both sides of that equation to go fast and win races. So, yeah, but yeah, I was only allowed to, you know, maybe if I wanted to change my visor to a dark visor for a day race or whatever, and then adjust the steering column to bring my steering wheel back forward. I wasn't allowed to touch anything else, and long story around that, but we learned that the hard way, not to let me touch anything.
That's what it takes. Sometimes, like I say, watching that wind slip away from me, boy, that as a teenager, that really hurt. That was one that stung very bad. And as you can see, 33 years old, still haven't forgot about it 20 years later, but it is what it is. These guys rolling around here ready to come to lap number 98. John, we're closing up on lap 100. There's just a little over 45 to go. These guys are really clicking it off now.
Yeah, and by the way, if it makes you feel any better, I screwed up and it didn't tighten something properly, and it popped a $30,000 motor. So
that makes me feel a lot better.
Yeah, it should. That was a long ride back from the track that night.
So we've got to think. Now you said, John, we're not thinking about short pitting at all, but
no. I mean, some guys might, but I mean, from my viewpoint, I don't know that I would.
I'm right there with you, but the fact that we're coming here to 45 to go next time, got to think if we have a mistake, have a caution, everybody's got to hit pit road now. So it's just all about when everybody's going to make it from here on out.
Yeah, this is going to be crazy if we do go to green flag, getting woed up and everybody trying to get as much as they can on the apron. I mean, believe it or not, you're still racing until you hit, you know, those cones on the actual part of pit road. So some guys might be a little braver than others, and some guys might step over that edge. But, you know, two things there. In the corners, you got to be careful, but speeding on pit road, you don't want to get caught speeding, because at this point, this late in the race, you get a speeding penalty. You know, if you're in that lead pack, guess what? Your race is over. You're just going to click off the final lap, so you're really not going to have a shot at winning.
No, and you know the deal, John, with road racing. This hard left turn into the pits, you got to get most of your braking done before you're wheeling that thing down in the pits, because if you're cranking the wheel left and you lock up the brakes, you're going to shoot right through the grass. But got our first car coming down pit road here. Torrance Childs here in the 105. I'm not sure if this is a planned trip. This thing, that's a pretty slow trip down pit road.
Yeah, it really is, but the fact too that he's pitting alone, so you know, he could be on his own strategy back there in 24th spot. He is a lap down now, so I mean, we'll see how many laps down when he gets back out there and in the race.
We see that there was a second pack there. The 7 was leading it, but they finally tightened it up. So we're back to the one big car pack here up front, up until we fall back to
14th.
Yeah, 14th with Luke Lane in the Code Red machine. Man, Mountain Dew is all over the track tonight. We got Diet Mountain Dew. A couple cars back, we got Code Red. My favorite is the Baja Blast.
I am a Mr. Pibb, and those of you watching from Michigan, you're going to love this, but I like burners.
Never heard of that. Never heard of that.
That's a ginger ale. A ginger ale, and yeah, my for my family and all that up there in Michigan, that's a must drink thing up there. I think Shasta, I think maybe it's Shasta that's up there. I think there's one other drink there.
Oh man, that 59, remember that car's a lap down, but he came with a big boy run. He almost got that thing in the outside wall. That was close.
Yeah, and I can't begin to tell you the level of irritation that I would have if a guy lap down caused a wreck that I got collected up in. And I mean, he's got every right to do what he's doing. So Fultz is not doing anything wrong there. But oh man, you know, that's still got to make some guys nervous because he's still got a lot of damage on the back end of that car. And so you have to think that car isn't quite running as well as the other cars. He's just benefiting from the draft right now.
Yeah, you're exactly right, and that's where, you know, not even the fact that he's a lap down, but the damaged car, that can frustrate you as a driver because when he goes by you, you can see that it's just with the help of draft, and you're thinking, man, now I got to follow this guy and find a way back around him. So it's one of those things you don't really let slip your mind, and, you know, I talked about it earlier. I was surprised Isaacs, you know.
Oh, here they all come. All the leaders, well, most of the leaders are coming.
Yep, here we go. With 40 laps to go. MacArthur leading the charge here. Does it look like getting
I'm going to guess that group would be one of those that are all in the same channel and all working together.
There you see those brakes lock up, and that guy almost hit the grass exactly like I said, John.
Yeah, that cone comes up quickly. Now we got another group going to follow him this lap.
Yeah, and I think you almost have to at this point, John. We see Victor and Mosier stay out there.
Oh, the 07 I think is going to go around on the... Oh, he saved it. The 07 tried to actually make a pass to the outside on that, and yeah, guys are having to whoa up. that cone comes up in a quick hurry around that corner.
Yeah, it really does. And trying to take a look here, the front two. Now we got the leader coming all by himself here, Mosier in the 43, and that leaves Victor Lane now all by himself in that 10 machine. I don't know how many laps you can afford to do that, John.
Yeah, we got, looks like 5th, 6th place now. We're going to pick up the lead here, maybe. Now, I'm wondering if Victor there, who's actually got the lead, he's got to come in now. I can't think he's going to stay out there.
No,
have you been watching to see if they're gassing them, or is anybody taking tires, you know? Yep, here comes Vic.
Great question. Why wasn't I looking at that pit time? So I'm seeing some 11-second pit stops. That's no way.
Right
that's
side.
4 tires. Yeah, that's right sides and gas. 10 is the shortest pit stop from Daniel Hill in the 7 so far. It's quick to stop. And now that Code Red machine, that second pack we were talking about, they were running 14th, I believe, John. Now they've inherited the lead. Haven't come down pit road yet, but at this point, if you have 4 or 5 cars together, here they come.
Well, Tommy Amassi's going to stay out there, but look at the leaderboard right now. We've only got 13 cars on the lead lap. A caution flag comes out right now. Holy cow, do you catch a lot of people out.
No, you're exactly right. That's what I was going to say. If you're in this front group that we're still out, if you got any fuel, I think you got to stay, but decide to duck down pit road. And now you kind of see the cars driving by on the top of the screen there. We're all in like 2-3 car packs. We have one big pack. That's about it. These green flag pit stops have really spread out the field.
Yeah, and that's not really a surprise because, like I said, there's so much time that can be gained at both ends. They're getting on and off, but I'm looking at the cars that just came in, and they're jacking up both sides of the car. So we are seeing some 4-tire stops in this.
Yeah, and you know, maybe with 30 laps to go here, I mean, you're costing yourself about 3 seconds. But with the way we saw that 7 drive through the field early on with those fresh tires, you get 3 or 4 cars lined up, John. Do you think it's maybe worth the risk if you all agree to do it together?
Maybe, you know, as long as everybody can work together when you get back on the track. But I'll tell you, you know, the leaders continue to circle here, and now you've only got 4 cars on the lead lap now. So caution, holy cow, that's going to be a game changer for this race.
Yeah, and Bill Martin last pit on lap 42 from what I'm seeing. So Bill, he's going to have to come soon. I wouldn't imagine he'd be able to stay out there much, much longer in that 18 machine. And when they do pit, when everything does roll, I believe we got Dan Hill, Tom Ogle, and Josh Robinson, a 3-car pack. They'll inherit the lead when this thing cycles through. if I'm doing my math correctly.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kotska's on his way in.
All the leaders. Yep, they are too. Massey and Martin are coming in too.
Yep, and this is where if you're that Mountain Dew machine, man, you got to close as quick as you can to Embassy. I know it's risky, but you got to be right on that bumper. You want to be able to draft on around the racetrack when you pull out of the pits.
You got to try to outbrake them even to that cone. Every millisecond counts. But I'm going to kind of keep my eye on here on the 18 of Martin here to see if it's a 2 tire, force tire, or even just a fuel stop.
Roger Hurley, the only car left to pit, last pit lap 51. He's got a 7-second lead over the 3-car pack behind him of Hill, Ogle, and Robinson.
2 tire stops for the 18 there.
Okay. Looks like the 77 here leader is going to come down pit road. He's pulling off, going down the backstretch. This is going to be it for the 77.
Yep, everything will cycle through now, and it's already started now. Just a second ago, having 5 cars. Now we're up to 18, 19. So yeah, they're cycling through for sure now.
A little bit of smoke there on the apron. Car locking it up. That may have been a scare to these front 3, but they inherit the lead, John, and they've got a almost 4.5 second lead over the 9 of Brian Lynch and the 51 of Jerry Isaac.
In a familiar face up front there, we saw the number 7 there of Hill there. He led early. We know he's strong and can stay up there.
Yeah, and I think, he did exactly what I said there, John. He had pit under caution. He went and got those new tires.
Look at this. Look at these leaders. Whoa! That is not what you want to see.
No, it isn't. They go to the high side here now, but that really checked them up. And you can see, Brian Lynch and them, they were almost 5 seconds back. They closed up half a second. They'll start to unravel that again. But boy, oh boy, that was a checkup.
Yeah, I'd have some steam coming out of my helmet over that.
Yeah, anyways, back to what I was saying. That 7, he took the strategy, came in and got those new tires. And that's what I'd asked you, John. If you race your way up to the front, you got to pit with these guys, even though you're on your own strategy. You can't get hung out by yourself. And, well, that's exactly what he did. And I think we take a look at that pit stop time. He had a 10.7 second pit stop where the other guys were in the 12. So he may not have taken any tires at all, which may come back to haunt him here at the end.
Yeah, I think so, especially if we get a caution and all of a sudden you're going to have some maneuverability in your car to kind of move around and do different things, and you've got air being taken off your nose. Won't be that big of a deal if he gets into a little small group. I think he'll be just fine.
Well, and don't blink yet, John, but Dwayne MacArthur here, he's leading the pack. He's got a long group of cars behind him, and they're closing on 4th and 5th. I think if they line up and work together, they might be able to catch this lead pack before it's all said and done.
Yeah, at this point they have to. MacArthur's there, and the group in front of him also has Isaacs, who's running 5th, and then also Brian Lynch, who's running 4th. So, yeah. And we saw it happen already once where a group, when they stayed together, they ran down the leaders fairly quickly, actually.
Yeah, so I'm almost if I'm that 51.
Look at where the leaders are at now.
Yeah, they're up the road. That's why I'm almost thinking if that is your game plan, if you're this pack of 3 cars, you almost got to lift and try to catch these leaders because they keep going through the minefield. Stuff keeps happening, but you just don't have the pace to run them down right now.
But that group keeps getting bigger nose to tail, which is going to be beneficial for those leaders. But that second and that third group, that tiny group and now that third group are now going to lock up here. And we're going to have to see some patience here for some guys to just stay lined up and not try to get a run on the outside to make up spots, even if they're lap guys in front of you.
And this is where if you're the 7 car, like I say, John had mentioned.
So much for that.
Yep. No, every man for himself here, I guess. And I don't know. I'd almost have the attitude you see look at that leaderboard. And just with them getting in line now, you can see Lynch. The number's getting smaller and smaller every fraction of a second. So if they would just stay lined up, I really do think they could run them down, but you got to be disciplined.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it's going to boil down to is we're talking now, I mean, the pay window is pretty much opening now. We got 25 to go. We're getting pretty close to that go time, but right now the 7 and those guys jumping up to the outside there, that's just killing that group. I mean, just absolutely killing them.
And now the leader's catching one more lap car here, the double deuce, Bruce Pearson, but he gets to the outside, and now Bruce, he'll be able to tag onto that pack if he can drop in line, and that's just going to make this front pack that much larger. So those guys, they got to work together, and they got to work together fast. Let's see, that gap, it's staying at that 4.8 mark. I just don't see, I mean, the 83, I totally understand MacArthur, but he keeps peeking out to the outside. I think, John, our top 3, this may be it unless they get the help of a caution.
Yeah, well, they almost had help of a caution right there.
Oh, yeah. Man, he's still trying to save it. We got a car down on the apron trying to avoid it. He gets back up. Boy, oh boy, the scares continue here in Atlanta, man. Cars are slipping and sliding.
Yeah, they're closing a little bit, but I don't know if they're going to they need to get nose to tail if they got any shot. I mean, we're talking now coming up on 20 to go here in just a couple of laps. I think it's probably going to take them 10 laps or so to even catch them if they stayed in line, and that only leaves you with 10 laps to do something here. So now you got 3 of them in the front of that pack, nose to tail, and then you got the guys behind, and you see the separation now. We've created 2 small packs again, just from guys kind of getting out of line there.
Yeah, and definitely not what the 9 of Brian Lynch wants to see out of that rearview mirror. When you're just seeing the guys get smaller and smaller out of that front windshield, you're just saying, guys, work together, get me up there, then you can worry about racing me. But it is what it is. It's a dog-eat-dog world out there, John.
Yeah, it is, and I mean, yeah, that dicing now has created 3 little packs there. One of 4 cars, another one of 4 cars, and then 2. Those guys, they got 5 cars, and then 4 cars, and then 2 cars there. But yeah, that dicing just absolutely killed them. I think it's going to come down to these guys up in the front here.
Yeah, and this comes down to, like I was saying earlier, before we had that little scare, but John, you touched on it. We're not too sure yet. Well, we promise we will be, all the drivers, but when you get a room full of 50 drivers memorizing all these teams, it is not easy to do. And this is where I think I'm pretty sure that Tom Ogle and Josh worked together at Daytona. So if I'm the 7th of Daniel Hill and those aren't my teammates behind me, man, I am making that rear end as wide as it gets here coming to the closing laps. Okay, we just got word from our amazing producer. I told you he's the heart and soul of this thing. Top 3 are teammates. So, John, now what do you do? You got me, you, and Steven up there. Who wins? I mean,
we stand on it. No, we stand on it. Stay nose to tail. Last lap. May the best man win.
I think I'm right there with you. That's what it's got to be. And you got to hope that those lap cars behind let those 3 play in the sandbox here in those last couple laps, and they just sit and watch the show, because we got a good view up here, John, but they're going to have the best one.
Yeah. Yeah, and that mixing it up with that other group now, they've kind of gotten back together again, and I just think it's going to be a little too late here now. So that front group, those top 3, just like I said, they just got to stand on it, look out the front windshield, and click these last handful of laps off here. And then, like I said, that 1 to go or whatever, The thing is, too, when you're running teammates up there, the 2 things that you don't want to have happen. You don't want to wreck each other, and you don't want to create a situation where one of the other guys not on your team sneaks through and gets a win. So breaking momentum, things like that, you don't want to see that happen. But in that group, though, you got the top 3. The other guys are all laps down. So, I mean, those guys aren't going to factor into it. So it is going to come down to those 3 up there.
Yeah, if you're the 23 of Josh Robinson, maybe you do want one of the lap cars to help you out. Come to that last lap, you get that.
I've been in that position, and I've done that. You know, I've been back there a lap down thinking, all right, who do I want to help win this thing?
Yeah, and that's where, you know, definitely white flag lap gloves come off. But you got to respect these lap cars. I mean, just another amazing job. A great race tonight. They're just getting out of the way, dropping in line. And, I mean, without it, I hate to keep bringing it up, but you don't get this good racing without all that good. I mean, just, I don't even know what respect, I guess, without respect for the other drivers. Just so much respect given in this league.
Yeah, and I'll be honest with you too here. The top three, I mean, for Josh, we talk about risk and reward here. For him to pull out and try to cowboy it, and hopefully one of those guys behind him goes with him, there's no real risk for it, because if nobody goes with them, there's nobody there that can fall back. He can tag onto the back of that group without losing a position. So, you know, I would say he's probably in the best position because of that. He's got options. You know, Ogle, you know, it's a tough position. If he goes for it and then Josh doesn't follow him, well, then he's going to go from second to third. He can lose a spot. Then if you go up to Hill, all he's got to do is just stand on it, keep it on the line down there, the fastest line, and don't look back.
Yeah, I think coming out of 4, you maybe float up a little bit, get that thing real wide. But
Yep.
You know, other than that, coming down to 10 to go. Now, I know we talked about, you know, teammates, you got to wait till the last lap, but I like your idea. You know, Josh tries to cowboy this thing around the outside. Do you have to start that move a lap early, or can you get it done in 1 lap?
You know, that's tough. It depends on what kind of help you get. You get somebody that will tap that bumper a few times to give you a couple of good shoves, well, then you could probably start and do the last lap. But if it's somebody that's just not going to quite get there, you're probably going to be sunk no matter if you try it 2 laps or 1 lap to go.
And, you know, I mean, the pack in front, not going too slow, John, but that one camera angle we saw, they're about 3 or 4 seconds up the road. We do have a lap pack ahead of us, so that could get interesting. You know, if we catch them on the last lap, maybe Josh goes up and uses the wake off those cars if they get up high and out of the way. You know, force a 3 wide here coming to the close. I mean,
well, if I see them doing that and I see them getting up, I pull out to see if I can catch that wake and have my car suck up to them and maybe get the pass done that way. If you pull out and time it just right, you might be able to get around those 2 guys in front of you just from that draft alone.
I'm with you. You know, maybe drop to about 0.4 of a second back on Tom. You know, get that big suction off him, rail up to the outside, and then use the next lane as well. And right now, I mean, if we look at that front pack, you see the other lappers have kind of fell off. There's only one guy there, the 81. So you got to think, I mean, at this point in time, you want that 81 to write the story somehow, don't you, John? I mean, if you're the driver. So you want to be involved, and I got to think he wants to help Josh win this thing if he has a chance.
Well, you know, everybody is buddies, and everybody will remember things that you do. So if you go out there and affect the outcome, especially in league racing, you got to be probably a little bit careful. The times that I've been in there, who do I want to push, has been when I've run like a NIS race where there's a, you know, every man for himself, and then I've been in there like, you know, because I don't really care who I push, or, you know, if someone's been cool to me the whole race, you know what, I'm going to probably get up there and try to help them out. But league racing a little different here. I don't know that I'm from that 81. I really don't know if I'd get involved here.
Yeah, we're reeling those guys in. You can see them getting bigger and bigger. We're going to start getting draft off those guys here pretty soon. And if you're the 23, now I'm telling you, I try to make my move.
4 to go.
I try to make my move here pretty soon.
Yeah, well, here's the deal. Right now, the lead car there is going to start to get a little bit of toe off of them, which is going to help him because it's going to up his speed, and it's going to make it harder for Ogle and the other car there, of Josh Robinson. It's going to make it harder for those 2 guys to actually make a move on them.
4 laps to go counting this one here, so have to see if Josh can hold on. That 11, man, he has been the best helper all race. Tom Ogle consistently giving him that bump right going into 3, and that's why we've just seen this front pack. He's so fast. The second pack, they've dropped down to 8 seconds back here. And these guys, man, they are flexing their muscles here at the Atlanta Motor Speedway. 3 to go.
If I'm Ogle, I kind of drag the brake a little bit going into 3 to where, like you said, you can develop a run with sucking up to them, and then coming out of 4, just pull out and drag race it to the start finish line.
We're coming to 2 to go this time by. Who you got, man? You got 3 teammates up front. You don't want to be that guy that knocks both of them off the podium, but at the same time, man, you want to wear that checkered flag at the end of this thing. So if Josh Robinson has the chance to make a move, I know he's a little frustrated after Daytona. Winner here in 1 lap, John. They punched their ticket to the playoffs. It's go time.
It is, and for Robinson, you know what? A couple good point stays, though. That doesn't hurt either. Now they look at them up front here. Now those guys are starting to dice it up.
And the white flag flies here. The 23 gets that big gap, and
I wonder if he's going to try to get a run.
He gets a big run. He's got to go in the middle 3 wide. Your leader, nowhere else to go. And I think the 11 here of Tom Ogle probably being pretty smart. Man, 10. He earned that. What a big boy move to solidify the win. Coming off a 4 for the final time. Checkered flag waves. And Daniel Hill is your winner in the YesterYear Cup Series, followed by teammates Tom Ogle, Josh Robinson. Lloyd Moore wins the race for 4th to the line. Dwayne MacArthur rounds out your top 5. But John, man, we were treated to another good one. I told everybody out there, these guys, green flag runs, that's what they're about. And boy, oh boy, did we get one.
I have seen people use lap cars as a pick. I have never seen anybody use 2 lap cars to set picks on both side of them. That was an incredible, man, I'm telling you, you talk about, cowboying it, making a big boy move. That was a big boy move to take it 3 wide there. Man, that is incredible.
Yeah, the top 3 park on the front stretch. But with that, John, we're going to step away. We're going to let the drivers catch their breath. I'm going to catch mine as well. Maybe gargle a little bit of salt water here before we go into the interviews. But stick around, and we'll talk to your top 3 right after this. We're back live on the Virtual Grip Network, and we're going to take a look here at the run down the finishing order here after 145 laps of great racing here at the Atlanta Motor Speedway. Daniel Hill brings home the win, Tom Ogle P2, Josh Robinson rounding out the podium, Lloyd Moore 4th, Dwayne MacArthur 5th, Jerry Isaac 6th, Brian Lynch bringing it home 7th, Greg Hammond 8th, Don Easterland 9th, and the boss man, Victor Lane, rounding out your top 10.
Coming home 11th is going to be Luke Lane, followed by Fred Wolford. Patrick Martindale will come home 13th. William Martin 14th. Kevin Masur coming home 15th. 16th will be Tom Massey, followed by Andy Thomas. Andrew Koska, then followed by Michael Dow, and Chris Bates will round out your top 20.
Coming home in the blackjack position, Brian Lindsay, followed by Torrance Childs in 22nd, Eddie Jones 23rd, and coming home 24th, Sean Foltz. Running out the top 25, Dave Matson, 26th, Larry Corey, Dustin Martinson 27th, Robert Borisco 28th, Bruce Pearson 29th, and rounding out the top 30, Eric McCluskey. John, you got it from here.
Coming home 31st is going to be Roger Hurley, followed by Lee Wurzel. Daryl Weiniger is going to come home 33rd, followed by Dakota Pischke. Mark Fish, he won the race last week, has a tough race this week, but guess what? He is locked in by virtue of that Daytona win, so he comes home 35th, followed by Kevin Strandberg, who had a very adventurous day to say the least. Lonnie Corey will come home 37th, 38th will be John Hastings, Alan Wanamaker 39th, and Gavin Adams 40th. Finishing 41st is going to be Courtney Nelson, followed by Mark Schrader, and Jonathan Green will round out tonight's field.
Now I think we've got everybody down there waiting for us. Let's see if we can bring up third place finisher Josh Robinson here. Josh, Shaggy in the booth, man. You got a copy?
Hey, how's it going?
Pretty good, man. I'll tell you. Exciting last lap, but let's wait for that. I'm guessing now, from what I understand, if my producer's correct, we had a teammate top 3, right?
That is correct. Once we got formed up coming out of the pits there, we're like, all right, just keep our heads down and get rolling, and we'll fight this out on the last couple laps. And then kind of just the way it played out, we caught a pack of guys. I think it was like 17th to 13th, and they went too wide, and Dan had some courage. It
yes,
stuck
he
it 3
did.
wide.
Oh, what's going through your head, Josh, man? You see that behind you? Are we puckering up a little bit?
Kind of both thoughts there, because when he stuck it 3 wide, as he was doing that, and he and Tom caught that pack in front of us, it was like a parachute on my car. I was wide open those last 2 laps, going absolutely nowhere. So my only chance to win was if some extracurricular activity happened with Dan and Tom. And when Dan stuck it 3 wide, I was like, I might get that.
Okay, so that was actually my next question. I thought maybe you were dragging the brakes a little bit to build up that gap, and try to get a lot of draft there that last lap. But it just seemed like maybe caught out whenever they caught that group in front of you, just a little too far back.
That's exactly what it was. This car, at this package, this track, it's a little bit of a weird draft, and super easy to lose the draft. Actually, that happened a little bit earlier in the race to a couple of us, and but yeah, as soon as they caught that pack, I was wide open, just going like, am I in the right gear?
Yeah, no, man, it's been neat to watch in this car. You're exactly right with the rules package they have. You go down there, you suck side draft off somebody at the wrong time, and you're going to doom yourself and everybody behind you. But it's neat to watch good guys like you work your way through, Josh. After the tough break there at Daytona, running in the front, hung out there on the final lap, able to bring this thing home on the podium. Heck of a job, Josh. Who you want to thank, brother?
I want to thank everyone that comes out. We've had the admins over at the OBRL do a great job, and then last week we had 50. This week we had 43, and a couple guys just unfortunately didn't make it in time, and so we've got plenty of drivers to do this with. So that's awesome. Looking forward to next week. Hopefully we get another full field at COTA. But as always, thank my teammates. We work super well together, and that kind of played out for us tonight.
Well, hey, good run, Josh. And, after everything factors out here, we may be looking at a new guy up top of the points. Good runs here so far this season. Hopefully you can log in a win here coming soon, but good luck the rest of the way, Josh.
Appreciate it. I feel like I used up all my luck for the season in these 2 super speedways, so we'll see how it goes.
We'll be rooting for you, brother. Give him back. That's your P3 finisher, Josh Robinson. And now we're going to bring up the man who finished P2. John, who you got?
I got the second place finisher, Tom Ogle. And Tom, I've got one big question for you. Sure. What was going through your mind when you watched your teammate stuff it 3 wide, kind of bounce off the other cars a little bit? What were you thinking?
So we had talked like 10 laps to go. We're like, once we get the white flag, gloves are off, and we're going to let it shake out. And then we start getting closer to those guys and closer. And, like, lap cars had kind of done us no favors at that point, you know. Some did. Like, there's guys that get out of your way. But then other guys just run the line, and you got to figure out how to get around them. So we kept catching them, and I'm like, boy, this could be bad. And I was hoping like they would get single file and we would pop out around them. But when they took the white, I think they said the same thing we did. So, listen, I was like, if you can have it, because I'm not jamming it in there. I had 0x, I hadn't wrecked, and plus we had 7 seconds. So you can go from second to 20th and wrecked on the backstretch. You know what I mean? I guess I wasn't willing to take the chance that Dan was.
Well, we had talked a few times in the booth during that race, you know, not just at the end there, but throughout the day, you've got to do risk and reward. Okay, you know, what am I doing here? What am I going to get out of this? You know, that kind of stuff. And a lot of calculus that, you know, that you've got to do on the fly. But
you always want to win, but
sure.
Boy, a second after, it was pretty like, it wasn't an easy race, and pitting under green there and stuff, if you had offered me a second, like on lap 6, I would have probably taken it, you know, and logged off. So.
Speaking of the pit stops, let me ask you about that real quick, because there was like 3 challenges unto itself. Getting onto pit road, getting around 3 and 4, then not speeding on pit road, you know, both getting into your stall, coming out of your stall, and then trying to get everything you can down in 1 and 2 without breaking. So what part of that process was the most difficult, and where did you think you gained the most time?
So I practiced pitting a little bit, but like you just never know, and it's dirty down there too. You know what I mean? You get down there and there's rocks and stuff hitting the bottom of your car, and then you come around the corner and the pit road speed is right there.
Yep. That
so
cone.
I mean, so you're right there, and you're running kind of a lot of back brake bias. So if you run too hard, you can wreck there, because I wrecked a couple times in practice. So that's the hardest pitting I ever did. At least if you're pitting off 4, you can only mess up kind of one thing. You know what I mean? You kind of have to treat it like a road course when you're getting ready to pit. You got to slow down enough, but not too much.
Yeah, it was kind of fun to watch those pit stops, and that honestly is what really gave you guys an advantage, because that's what broke the big pack up for the rest of that race with no other cautions.
And we took 2 tires, and some of those guys took 4.
Okay, that probably was most definitely. Yeah, I was gonna say that.
And we didn't have to take a full tank. We only had to take like 10 gallons of fuel.
Yeah, we mentioned that too about the gas, you know, how much time you'd spend on pit road actually filling the car up and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
But it was once again, just you guys put on a heck of a show, a really fun race to watch there. And that pit road looked pretty gnarly.
It was bad. Like, I was like, so I actually wanted to go long, because I'm like, we're surely getting a caution, because somebody's going to overshoot and end up back up on it. There's 100 things to go wrong when guys start pitting under green. A guy gets ran into from behind, 100 things. And so we wanted to go long, but I was leading that pack, and first of all, shout out to Dwayne for hanging me out. I'm so glad we beat him, because he hung me out. He didn't pit with me. He cool guyed me and hung me out to pit.
See, and we try to tell everyone on the broadcast, drivers, don't forget that stuff. This is your example right here.
Right.
here.
Typical Dwayne. He hangs out. He's not loyal. Him and Eddie, that whole bunch over there at LDR, you can't count on them. That's what I always say.
Well, on the flip side, I'm going to defend them just a little bit. Sometimes you got to be a little selfish out there to get that checkered flag. But you know what?
With my guys, whether they did or not, they just have to.
But Tom, I'll tell you what, as a fan and be able to sit up in that booth, you love to see stuff like that because, man, you just know that that's going to come back and come around and add to a storyline somewhere, and it makes it entertaining. So
when we came out, I wasn't sure where we were, and I was like, man, did they gain that much? I can't see them on our relative. And Josh was like, we're 7-6. We were like 5 seconds ahead of them, so I'm like, all right, let's put some laps down. So we ended up pulling away from them, too, which made it even better.
Yeah, and I'll let you watch the replay to find out why that is, and you'll probably get a bigger kick out of it.
Well, somebody got a black flag. I heard that. I think Brian Lindsay got. I hated to lose Jerry and somebody else. Craig.
Well, I'll tell you this. Just go back and watch it. You'll get a kick out of it because that turned into a storyline late in the race. But, hey, congratulations on a runner-up here. Anybody you want to give a quick shout-out to?
Just my teammates. They helped us out. Josh, me. It was a ton of fun. All those guys are good racers. Just all the guys in the league. We raced hard, but it was a pretty clean show. And thanks to Kevin Strandberg for holding the brakes when he got turned down there on the bottom.
You know what's funny is we highlighted that too. So you go back watch that broadcast. We covered everything there. So
I was like, oh boy, he's coming back up.
Yep. Well, I'll tell you what. Congratulations again.
Hey, thank you.
We'll see you next week.
Hey, no problem. Thank you.
Yep. That's Tom Ogle, our second place finisher, and Zach, you got the man of the hour, man, the top guy here. So take her away.
Yeah, I love when those guys make us look smart, John, and make us look like I know something. But looks like we got the trash man up here, Daniel Hill. How are we feeling, brother? And man, how do you fit pants over those things that you got between your legs? Because that move on the last lap was the best move I've ever seen, Daniel. I mean, how do you do that?
We'll go with just limited brain cells because that was, it was the move I needed to make. But normally I would never want to do that. But it's the last lap. If I lift there, the 23 and 11 are going to go by me. I mean, I had no choice but to try to squeeze it there. They left me no room. So, that's how you win races, though.
No, and we had talked to you mid-race. You'd said about how you wanted to pit later, and that's exactly what you did. Now, I got a question for you. On that pit stop, did we take 4 tires that middle stop? Because you absolutely drove that thing like a missile on the high side, man, when everybody else was getting a little, out of control, and that got you back up there with the lead pack. What did we do under caution?
Every time I took 4. So the first 2 pit stops I took 4, and then that final pit stop I went ahead and took just right sides, just only because we were going to have such a shorter pit.
Now, I know sometimes, obviously, restrictor plate racing here not as big of a deal, but when you take the 2 tires, does it upset the balance of the car at all? Are you having to drive any different?
Not normally. I was a little bit worried here only because it does. You get down 10% or so on your tires. But when I was racing earlier, I noticed that it would want to come up off the bottom if I was, as a tire run got late. So I figured right sides was the call to make, even though you wear out your lefts a little bit more. And the main thing is, you really want to have at least one side of the tires on to help you get off pit road, because otherwise you could lose a lot of time trying to just accelerate back onto the track.
Well, I mean, obviously, Daniel, long way to go. But, I mean, how does it feel to have the weight lifted off, man? You're going to be in the playoffs if we show up for enough races.
Well, after the Daytona debacle, it feels good because I was down there in the bottom with 0 points. So, it's nice to get it out of the way, and now I can just concentrate on having fun and trying to improve my racecraft the rest of the season.
Yeah, now, you had that 11 car, your teammate Tom, glued behind you pretty much that whole time. when we roll back around to a restrictor plate race, do we go for another W or do we maybe return the favor for the 11? How do we handle that? Do we get another teammate in the chase, or are we trying to hog them all up?
Hey, the way we race is we race to win, and
My man, that's what I want to hear.
We don't hand victories to nobody, and even our own teammates. We'll help each other obviously throughout the race to get us all to the end. But when we get to the end of the race, all gloves are off, and we're gonna go at each other.
Well, you gave us the perfect example of that tonight, man. Having to stick it in the middle of 2 lap cars to just absolutely lock down that win. And when you go back and look at this, because you're obviously paying attention to out the front windshield, but you scared the heck out of Tom, boy. He lifts out of the throttle, and as soon as you stuck it in 3 wide, man, I knew it was yours. That was a big move. Congratulations, really hanging it out to win that thing. You earned it, Daniel. Who you want to thank?
Well, obviously, you gotta shout out to my teammates, Tom, Brian, Josh. Even Kevin Strandberg, who got dumped earlier on that earlier pit stop strategy we're trying to work. They helped me out a lot. I have to shout out to my wife because she lets me do this, and shout out to you guys. You guys do an amazing job in the booth, and also I wouldn't this league wouldn't run as smoothly without the great admins that we have at this place. Victor and Josh and all those guys are just amazing at providing such a great place to come out here and race clean.
You're exactly right, man. Admins, unsung heroes, but you guys, I don't know how you do it. Last week, 3 cautions. I mean, a little more this week, but boy, I mean, tougher racing, and you guys upped it. That green flag pit stop here is nasty. You absolutely nailed it. Congratulations, Daniel. Can't wait to talk to you again, brother.
Yeah, thanks a lot, guys.
With that here, we'll take a look at what's coming up here on the Virtual Grip Racing Network. Of course, next Sunday, John, we're doing a little road racing, man. Circuit of the Americas. How are we feeling coming into Texas?
Thankful I'm not going to be on the track. So, that's a great track there. It's very challenging. These guys are got a tall task coming up here. I can't wait to see it.
And then don't forget either, there on the bottom, this Tuesday we kick off a new venture here for the Virtual Grip Network. I'll be there along with my partner J.R. Shepard. Ryan will be on the cams as always, but the YesterYear 1966 Tour Mod Series, we're going to the Daytona International Speedway. And John, we talked a little bit about it before the race started tonight. These things, a lot of power. I'm excited. I don't know if we're going to get bump drafting, but we're going to get some 3 wide.
Yeah, I'm going to hate to miss that race. I'd love to be in it, but I think I'm going to be at our corporate office, so unfortunately won't make that one.
Well, I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in here this evening. You got to enjoy a wonderful race here at the Atlanta Motor Speedway. Thanks to the YesterYear Cup Series. We're happy to be here, and man, we got a long, long way to go this season. I think still 33 points races left, so make sure you hit that like button, you hit that subscribe button, you don't miss a show. On behalf of everyone at the Virtual Grip Network, I'd like to thank my partner John Hine and our dude in the back, Ryan Seneker. And last but not least, all of you, have a good night.